First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Cold weather grips northern parts of the country as temperatures plummet below zero.
Gainesville reflects on its past and present in the State of the City address. That's our top story for tonight. I'm Grace King.
And I'm MEREDITH Sheldon. Gainesville officials also addressed some of the transformations you'll be able to see in the future. WUFT's Elena Wilson was there to see it all happen.
I spoke to some residents who are most excited to see improvements with renters' rights. Those residents quickly filled the Cade Museum to listen to Mayor Poe and Interim City Manager Deborah Bowie discuss highlights and some shortfalls during 2018. Eyes and ears were focused on Gainesville Mayor Lauren Poe. He outlined a few of Gainesville's accomplishments and other things that still need improvement during the annual State of City address at the new Cade Museum. The mayor says that particular location is one of the city's success stories.
It used to be a contaminated, toxic dumping ground, and now it's home to one of the world's greatest parks and one of the world's greatest museums for innovation and invention.
While Gainesville had some major improvements during 2018, the mayor says the city still has room to grow and improve.
We just have to keep focused on those who are facing the greatest challenges when it comes to inequities. But there's some really promising signs.
Gainesville resident Melanie Ling was one of 150 people listening to Poe's address. She says she's excited about new faces working for the city and the ideas they will bring.
In the horizon, there may be some folks with new policy changes because the commissioners just changed, and I just look forward to see what they're doing, but I think it's a little bit too soon to tell.
Another resident expressed his disappointment with the city politics.
I feel like everybody's taking sides, deciding on who's right and who's wrong, and then just sticking with that regardless of what's good for everybody in the city.
But nearly every person in attendance was more focused on the changes for 2019, like renters' rights, construction, and education.
Here's to 2019, another great chapter.
The City of Gainesville will hold another State of City address next year to discuss how 2019 unfolded, as well as future changes to come.
Thank you, Elena. Well, it sure has been a cold one out today, and the wind certainly hasn't helped.
It really has. I heard it's supposed to get even colder tonight, and some areas are under a freeze warning.
WUFT's Justin Revis joins us from the Weather Center. Justin, what impacts can we expect from the freeze warning here tonight?
Well, Grace and Meredith, we shouldn't be seeing anything too extreme, but it is going to be cold enough where people should think about bringing their pets inside and wrapping those plants. We're only going to see freezing conditions under the perfect circumstances when you get clouds, no clouds above the area, and light winds, but the freeze warning is still in effect through most of the evening into the morning tomorrow. Now, temperatures are going to drop fairly fast as the clouds start to move out of the area, and a lot of areas still are going to experience patchy frost as we move through the evening hours into tomorrow morning. Now, right now, we're only sitting at 47 degrees here in Gainesville, really the upper 40s across most of north central Florida, which is surprising since we only got up to 51 today here in Gainesville. Now, looking at the rest of the country, we are a lot more fortunate. Even though we're under freeze warning, we could be in the negatives. And with the wind chill of -40 in Chicago, I know that polar vortex is really causing some problems up there. Just nice to be in Florida for once. Back to you.
So like Justin told us, temperatures are dropping here in Florida, but this Gainesville weather is nothing compared to the record cold that is sweeping the nation. Millions in the Midwest are facing temperatures some are calling once-in-a-generation cold. Even the U.S. Postal Service has suspended deliveries in 11 states. Some cities are experiencing wind chills as low as 70 degrees below zero. Cities like Chicago, where beds are being added to the 270 warming centers open to keep people from the deadly chill.
No one in need of a safe or warm place to stay will be turned away. No one.
Throughout the Midwest, the weather will get worse before it gets better, with snow on its way tomorrow. Temps are expected to rise to the 30s and 40s this weekend.
A new recovery center is opening its doors, signaling a new beginning for addicts suffering in north central Florida. WUFT's Sophia LaFrance joins us from the UF Health Recovery Center. What was once a nightclub right here is now an addition to the UF Health Florida Recovery Center as a newly renovated facility. UF Health Recovery Center doctors and staff cut the ribbon and opened the doors to a new addition. Medical Director Scott TEITELBAUM says this space will mark the beginning of change and hope for people battling substance abuse.
Today is a renewal of the commitment, an expansion of the commitment of UF Health to help people give the best shot they can at recovery. It's a privilege and an honor to be here, and thank you.
This 9,000 square foot building is on 13th Street, 2 miles from UF Health Shands Hospital. The new building's first floor features meeting rooms and an auditorium. UF Health Department of Psychiatry offices and UF Health's newest outpatient practice for addiction medicine are upstairs.
If you ask me what's unique about UF Health, it's the commitment. There is no other university in the country with the breadth of services clinically that is offered here at Florida Recovery Center. I say that confidently.
And this building itself has its own story to tell. A nightclub in the 80s, a place which can spark addiction, has turned into a safe haven for people struggling with the disease.
That facility itself has gone through a process of rehab, you might say. So I think it's a beautiful picture for the power of recovery.
Doctors of Florida Recovery Center are optimistic about the increase of awareness and aid that will come with this new facility.
There's nothing like to see a healed individual or a healed family suffering from an addictive disorder. So I could not, in my life today, next to my family and my children, this is the proudest day of my life.
Opioids have reached epidemic status in the United States, and the number of addicted people in some Alachua County communities is growing.
In response, the city of Newberry has created a 5-member task force to fight against teens and young adults using opioids. WUFT's Tessa Benthulen joins us live from the newsroom to tell us about this new initiative.
I spoke with the Newberry City Commissioner who has been part of this project since it first came about last year, and for her, addiction hits too close to home.
Newberry City Commissioner Joy Glanzer looks at pamphlets explaining the shocking numbers of teens and young adults using opioids. She's concerned about the youth in the city she's called home for 42 years. But Glanzer's battle is also personal. A family member whose name she did not want to disclose had an opioid addiction that started at 18 years old.
And it was a gradual escalation over the years.
Her loved one got hooked after discovering his back pain would disappear with the help of opioids. Glanzer says a doctor told him at 10 years old there was really no hope for his pain to go away without the pills.
And he said, well, there's one of two things that'll happen. He will either learn to deal with the pain, or he'll become a drug addict.
He's been clean for about 18 months now, but the community's fight is far from over. The Alachua County Health Promotion and Wellness Coalition does not have any specific numbers on Newberry, but they say almost 10% of middle and high school students reported abusing prescription pain relievers in their lifetime.
And I think once we can turn around the image of an addict, I think it's going to help greatly towards healing it.
Jordan Marlowe is the mayor of Newberry and is also a teacher at Newberry High School. He knows the feeling of losing a teen to drugs all too well. One of his former students became addicted to opioids and ultimately took his own life. He hopes the task force will bring together a variety of people who have knowledge on the subject.
It may be someone who dealt with addiction before and can help speak from a personal level. I think we also need experts. We need people that deal in health, mental health profession.
Glanzer is excited the whole community is fighting the epidemic together.
Well, the opioid epidemic is savage, and we need to get in the trenches and declare war on it.
Marlowe says the task force will start sometime in March, and the application to be part of the task force closes on February 6th. Live from the newsroom, Tessa Benthulen, WUFT News.
Tessa, thank you. The state of Florida is standing with Israel in the Airbnb dispute. The governor placed Airbnb on a scrutinized company list yesterday in response to the company's decision to not list properties in the West Bank. WUFT's Tyler Martin spoke with some members of the Gainesville Jewish community about the issue.
You don't use politics and take away people's, their livelihood because of certain political issues.
Florida is backing Israel in its dispute with Airbnb, which recently stopped listing rentals in the West Bank. The state will no longer reimburse state employees for using Airbnb when traveling, and investment sanctions could be next.
It's unfortunate that they chose to involve themselves in in politics.
Hani Goldman, co-director of UF Chabad, says the disputed territory often surfaces in political fights.
So they first removed the West Bank from their website, and then they got a lot of pressure, and they backtracked that, and they allowed it, and then all of a sudden they changed paths again.
However, not all members of the Jewish community are on board with the governor's perspective. Some even think Airbnb has the right idea.
I don't think that anti-Semitism is the sole reason. I think that there's a lot of other factors that may be in play here, like, for example, safety for Airbnb's customers.
But the governor sees the delisting as discrimination and may move ahead with investment sanctions on Airbnb.
Airbnb says there were 200 listings in the West Bank compared to 20,000 still in Israel. But critics say it's not the number, it's the double standard that's unacceptable in Israel and in Florida.
Seeing those police just pouring in.
A Florida man tells his story of survival 1 week after the fatal Sebring shooting.
Plus, new grant money will help the Pace Center for Girls serve even more students. Those stories and more coming up after the break.
And more on the freeze warning in effect for much of north central Florida after these commercials.